Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome to the daily analysis for August 3rd. As you can see, I just took a USDCAD long. And my strategy for this trade is just, there's a little bit of rounding momentum here that you can see. And I'm going to try to get it as it's rallying up, even though the market's going to close here pretty soon. And hopefully expect that the weekend, over the weekend, that it's going to gap upward or at least start with a lot of momentum to the upside. You can see that my stop loss is extremely tight here. Only about 16 pips. So it's a tight play, small risk, but the opportunity to make a pretty decent sized trade if it were to gap up or rally upward based on this rounding momentum. So that's something that I'm looking at. But what I want to do in today's analysis is mainly look at the weekly charts as it's Friday, and we're just kind of going over the longer term stuff, seeing what happened this week, looking to what we might expect over the next few weeks, and hopefully setting ourselves up for some good trades. Before we jump into those charts, let me pull over our terms here. And again, these are just important for you to understand because the government is strict about what we can and cannot do. And we just want you to understand that, this is for educational purposes only. We're not licensed or qualified in any way. So just make sure you understand that. All right. 5.1 pips, man. I should book it. I'm up huge. Let us go to the weekly chart. Now, you can see that a long in this situation looks somewhat crazy considering the weekly chart. However, I am on some major support here, which is a good sign. And even though this is a mostly bearish trend, within these weekly bars, there's actually been quite a few very nice spikes to the upside, and that's all I'm looking for here. It's a nice spike. You can see that my target's up here, which is not likely to get hit on a spike, but I can at least move my stop up and lock in some more profit. But I'm expecting some kind of spike throughout next week, and if I don't get it, then it's not a huge deal because my risk is very conservative here, and I feel that I'm in a pretty good position for a trade. So overall, USDCAD, it still looks to be bearish. We're on a major support level. If it breaks through there, it's going to be great short opportunities. But do be careful for that bounce. That's kind of what I'm expecting going into next week. Okay, the euro dollar. Let me pull this. I'm used to looking at the daily chart, so my things are very confusing. Okay, now on the weekly chart, we actually seem to have a very nice rally. And let me pull up my marker here. If you see where this began to exhaust and slow down, and the turnaround has been very consistent. So we didn't have a lot of choppiness, and then one big bar. We actually had a small bar, a little bit of a tail here, a bigger bar, and then a tail upward. So the rounding made sense, so to speak. So to me, that's showing a pretty nice rounding to the upside. Now, of course, it is still the euro dollar, and it's still obviously very bearish overall. But nonetheless, this is a good weekly tail that is pointing to the upside, and maybe something that might be worth taking advantage of. If you get continued long setups throughout next week. Okay, let's go to pound. Now, obviously, pound is in a slightly different situation. Pound, we've been chopping back and forth in this channel here for quite some time, and it looks like we're at the top and might continue right back down. But eventually, if the squeeze is too tight, obviously, we'll get a breakout one way or the other. But until then, even though the channel is getting tighter, it's probably worth playing it because there's still a good amount of pips to be found within this channel. And I know that I've made some pretty decent pips trading this channel. So keep your eyes on these levels. I would advise you to draw this channel as it has been very consistent so far. And when it breaks out of this channel, should be some good trade opportunities in that case as well. All right, odd dollar again, obviously very bullish. You can see that we had, obviously very bearish movement in past months. It was headed straight down, but as soon as we built a base and had one bearish bar, that's all it took was one bearish bar, we basically had been headed straight up since then. And you can see that the two red bars in the midst of this rally are very small, very insignificant bars at this point. Now, one thing to note is that after this fake spike to the downside, not only did it bounce back up, but it actually started breaking out of the top of this channel, which is amazing because it's already a pretty steep channel to the upside. So to break out of the top of it really shows a lot of odd strength. And obviously the dollar's got a little weaker as well, but it's mainly odd strength that we're seeing here. And that's something that is important to keep your eye on, especially because it broke this little top base here, which is not a huge level here. But still, any time that a pair breaks right through a base, you should take note of it because that means there's a lot of momentum. So keep your eye on this. If it gets too high up here, we'll probably need to wait for retrace before taking a long in that situation. But if it breaks right over this line, retest it, and then continues, you want to get long in here or here or here and take the ride up. Now, obviously, when it gets up into this area, if it does continue up that high, we have some major resistance. So definitely keep your eye on this 108 area because that is a very big level and a very high. Let me scroll back here a little bit and show you what we're looking at, because the highest high is not too far away. Up here is let me see, it's 110.80. So at 110.80 we'll be at the highest highs, and which is obviously very incredible considering that the US dollar has been somewhat strong as of late, yet odd dollar is approaching record high. So that tells you that the odd is basically on fire with the strength. I mean, you can scroll back and we can go down and we can see historically the run of the odd. And the drops have been immense. But when all is said and done, we're at very high levels, historically speaking, for the Australian dollar, which is, again, extremely impressive because the US dollar has been a pretty strong currency recently. So for the odd just to be kicking butt like this means that there is serious strength in the odd. And I know that many people credit that to their relationship with China and the imports from China. So if you're interested, you can read a little bit about that. That's a lot of the reason that the odd has so much power is because of that relationship with China, which is obviously one of the biggest consumers in the world. So that helps. But it's just something that why the trend is happening is not as important to me. I'm more interested in just taking advantage when it does happen, and right now it's happening. A lot of power, and a lot of good technical signals. So look for those on the odd. All right, let's take a look at the euro pound. Now the euro pound is another one that's bouncing, and you can see that it's a historically low price. It didn't get all the way down to this low, which was basically the shelf it built 4 years ago, I guess that is. So until then, until this area, the normal price for the euro pound was much lower. But since it broke up in this area, retested this area, and went up here, which was about 4 years ago, you can see that price has gotten used to being much higher. And so this area does not seem like all that much, but again, 4 years of floating above this price is quite a long time. So for it to get all the way down here is pretty extreme. It came close to testing the 4-year low here, even though it didn't quite get there. But now it looks to be rallying to some extent, and I don't know if this is real euro strength or just fake induced by President Draghi or whoever else was involved in supporting the euro, but it certainly is showing some strength. You can see obviously that this little two-bar rally, two weekly bar rally here is definitely showing signs of bullish momentum. So Again, it's very difficult for me to suggest whether this is going to continue or if this is just another small pullback in this long-term downtrend. I really don't know. I really don't have a strong opinion about it because it's the euro versus the pound. It's not the euro versus the AUD. You know what I mean? So that makes it difficult for me to really suggest one way or the other. But I do think that that the euro is rallying because of some of that fundamental stuff that's going on, and so I think it has the potential to continue to rally against the pound. But overall, it's just something that I'm gonna have to wait and see a technical signal for, and until it at least breaks one base level, whether it's here or up here, depending on how you're looking at the resistance area there. I think that it's it's still bearish for me until it breaks one of those key levels. Okay, let's look at one more pair here, and then we will call it a week. All right, the pound yen. And the reason I want to look at the pound yen is because we have one of my favorite signals, and that's a double bottom. I really enjoy the double bottom tails because to me that shows the market was going down, was trying to fake people out, it turned around and it got long. Enough people stayed long that it needed to fake out again to get people out and then turn into a long bar again. And so once this happens, a lot of the people who are already long are now out of the market, and it's going to go up, but the new longs are the people who are going to make the money. And so for me, that's often a really great signal. Now the problem is that this second tail bar right here is not a very bullish bar. It's still actually red overall, even though it's a good tail. But nonetheless, it's still a double bottom and showing wicks, which means that the price was pushed back up. And this market's pretty sideways, so you could expect a bounce up into here or maybe here or up here even. So possibly a good long signal, but just something to keep your eye on is this tail and to see whether that continues into next week, because that's one of the great signals is those double bottom tails. I think that's the last pair I wanted to cover today. Just going over some of those major weekly moves. Hopefully this analysis was helpful to you, and if you have any questions or comments, as always, please feel free to share those. Let's check on that USDCAD, see if it's falling down at all. Go to my hourly chart here. Okay, good hourly bar. Up about 10 pips right now on this trade, so maybe I'll give myself, you can see this is my entry line right here. Maybe I'll give myself a little space, it'll even continue to rally today, and I can get my stop loss locked into break even before the market's even closed. That would be a really great situation to have no risk going over the weekend and just hoping for a great profitable gap with no risk on the trade. That's always a good feeling. But anyway, thanks again for watching the analysis, and if you have any questions or comments, leave those below.